Hello everybody, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us in this last session of the first day of the ISF Virtual Congress. I'm here in the studio with Viktoria de Bourbon de Parme from the World Benchmarking Alliance. Thank you, Viktoria, for joining us. I'm Hélène from the International Seed Federation team, and I'm very happy to welcome you again on the studio today. So during this next 30 minutes, we will talk about the role of seed companies in the transformational change from fork to fork. As I said, we have Viktoria on stage with us. Thank you very much. And we have a range of speakers online with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Tomas Zaborowski, Head of Sustainability Excellence at Bayer. Thank you so much for joining us, Tomas. We have also Alice Ingabire from the World Benchmarking Alliance, working more specifically on the Access to Seed Index. Thank you so much, Alice, for joining us. And we have Dr. Beatrice Elohor, who is member of the Technical Committee of NASTAG, which is the National Seed Trade Association of Ghana. Thank you so much, Beatrice, for joining us as well. We will come back to you in a few minutes, and before that, I will turn to Viktoria, who is now joining us because 2021 is the very important year. Indeed, that's the year of the United Nations Food System Summit, and all the stakeholders involved in the food systems are going to try to propose ideas to implement the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And the World Benchmarking Alliance has been very active in this process and has, for example, did an evaluation of 350 food companies last year, but also for this very important year. So thank you, Viktoria, for joining us. And could you describe us a bit what is the World Business Alliance? Because I don't think our audience knows you very well. And what is your role in the United Nations Food System Summit? Thank you, Viktoria.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Nice to be here. So indeed, from the World Benchmarking Alliance, we're an independent monitoring mechanism. So we're funded by governments and philanthropic institutions and assess companies across all 17 SDGs. So we call them 7 different systems. One of those systems is the food and agriculture industry, which I'm responsible for. And you might, and many of your audience will be aware of the work of the Access to Seeds Index that my colleague Agnes Ingabire will speak about later. But we also focus on seafood, but I'm very active now and mostly focused on the food and agriculture benchmark. This is a very broad benchmark. We're assessing it really from a food systems perspective. So as you said, we're looking at 350 companies, from seed companies all the way to retailers and food service providers, traders, food processors, everything in between, and across a broad range of topics. So we look at environmental topics, nutrition topics, and social inclusion topics. So really a broad assessment on how we are progressing towards the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. As you said, this year is so exciting. We've got the Food Systems Summit coming up, and I'm really pleased that we're in a really good space with food and agriculture, because we are already aware that we are speaking of systems, so that every party in the value chain is interlinked and that all of these topics are in need of collaboration. So what we're seeing from the summit now, and where we see our role as well, is that Agnes Kalibata, the Special Envoy from the UN Food Systems Summit, has set forward that review and monitoring is one of the outcomes of the summit. So we are moving beyond pledges, moving beyond commitments, and really looking at how will we be able to reach 2030. And so that's the role of WBA, to be monitoring that in an independent way, to seeing the progress that is being made and highlighting best practices along the way.
Okay, thank you, Viktoria. So you have made a baseline analysis in December last year of 350 food companies, and Bayer is one of them, and we will hear from Tomas just after that. Could you tell us a bit more about your findings of this analysis you made last year?
Yes, it was really just a very first snapshot. So it's very different from what we will be publishing in September at the Food Systems Summit, really the first benchmark. But we did a first snapshot of where does the industry stand expand on things like nutrition, for example. And seed companies are very active on really promoting food security and crop diversity, but actually they're also big contributors to nutrition, to healthy diets at the end of the value chain. So we're really making those connections from a systemic and a value chain perspective. So that's on nutrition, for example. We've heard sounds coming up that in the future we will be measuring not only yield per hectare, but nutrition per hectare, as the importance of the quality is so important. And then if we look at environment, I mean, the seed companies are really at the front line of creating innovative solutions for climate resilience, the need for less water, less pesticide use, but also improving the yields, making climate resilient crops. So there's such a strong potential of seed companies to contribute to that transformation. And we're seeing great examples along the way. And let's be honest, many of the companies in the value chain, if they are making commitments on environmental, social, or nutritional topics, it all starts at the farm level. So it all starts with good quality input, healthy seeds, and that trickles down across the value chain. So that is something that we try to highlight. And then the last bit is this social inclusion part, which is about human rights due diligence. It's about access to market, access to good quality crops. But of course, my colleague Alice will speak about this in much more detail, as the access to seeds index focuses that on with much more depth as the food and agriculture benchmark. But this benchmark is really providing this holistical overview of the role of the different actors in the value chain and the potentials to really showcase best practice, showing the leading practices, and really incentivizing other businesses to step up their game as well, because we need transformation. We saw in the baseline that we're greatly behind. Many companies, or actually a quarter of companies, don't have hardly any sustainability targets in their strategy at all. Luckily, we do see good practices, but it's the minority. So we really need those companies to really share those practices and to elevate the rest as well.
Thank you, Viktoria. So I will turn to Tomas, who is actually Head of Sustainability Excellence at Bayer, one of the company which is part of the evaluation of the World Benchmarking Alliance, but also of the evaluation of the Access to Seed Index, and also a member of ISF. So it totally made sense for you to be here today, Tomas, and thank you very much. Could you tell us a bit more, what was your experience at Bayer to be part of this assessment by the World Benchmarking Alliance, and what role do you see for Bayer in the food system transformation, and how do you see that Bayer is contributing to this very important year of the UN Food System Summit?
Thank you, Hélène, and thank you for the invitation. I think that I will separate in two main aspects. The importance of measuring the progress of our companies and the contributions that our company are doing. So I will separate in two, basically on the strategy side and then on our engagements in our engagement side. So as we said, everything starts with the seed. And I'm a big advocate of the importance of seed as the part of the value chain. And I think that we have been involved with Access to Seeds Index for the last two publications when they started and how the world benchmarking was evolving. I think that this is really important because it helped us to evolve our own strategies. So we had many different conversations on different aspects, and those conversations actually evolved in very solid strategies and also in business opportunities, because that's what we think that is viable. We understand that smallholder farmers today are the basis of the food value chains, and if we help them, that will create a big positive impact if we enable them in their reach full farming potential. So everybody knows about the importance of smallholder farmer in agriculture. So actually, for the different stages of access to seed, we have been evolving into even including our main commitment or target to reach 100 million smallholder farmers in low-middle income countries by 2030. And what that means is that we have this topic embedded in our strategy. So we measured that today we're reaching 45 millions, but we measured last year that we're reaching to 42. And putting numbers is not a question of just to show it, but actually how this will be transformational in the strategy of our company. So how we actually do better commercial operations with a more regionally focus, how do we enable digital solutions with a very concrete aspect of smallholder farmers, how we can have differentiation of portfolio, or how do we help to have better technology to their hands. But as Viktoria mentioned as well, everything, it's about different partnerships in the value chain. And that's what we're trying to aim with examples like the Better Life Farming centers that we have in Asia mainly. But what I want to put as the question of measuring is that this will help us to keep on evolving. We know that this is just the start, and not only putting a commitment is just the way of going forward, but actually how with our business we can influence and have better impact. And today we said, okay, now our board is compensated, but how many millions farmers are we reaching? But I think that this goes beyond what is going to be the next steps, as Viktoria mentioned, digital, or how it was mentioned in the video before, what is the impact of climate change also in smallholder farmer? What is the contribution that they can make? And that through the benchmark, this is the engagement side that I was talking about. I think that this is really important because you're telling us also what is material for you, what the benchmarks could actually tell us, where do you want our companies to focus, and where we can concentrate our strategic efforts to do that. And in that sense, when I talk more about the engagement and our willingness to keep on collaborating with the World Benchmarking Alliance in the food and agricultural benchmark, it's more about understanding what do you need to see. How do you want us to portray better our stories, our efforts that we do? So as an example today, and I know we'll finalize because of the time limitations, but around 85 people contributed this year on answering the food and agricultural benchmark and the access to seed index. And we will continue to do that. I think that what is important is that these frameworks actually fills the gaps that other indexes or other topics like ESG are not covering, especially as Viktoria mentioned, in terms of nutritional factors, in terms of there are environmental factors and social aspects as well. So really looking forward, what are going to be the outcomes of the next access to seeds, because this is the first time that we're going to be including the 3 regionals. So thank you, and yeah, open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Tomas. And this is a good transition, actually, to our second speaker. And I would like to say that the seed sector is very diverse, as you know, but we are all working together the same goal, I think. And the goal is quite well pictured in ISF vision, which is a world where the best quality seed is accessible to all, supporting sustainable agriculture and food security. And actually, assessing the accessibility of seed for all kinds of farmers, and especially smallholder farmers, is a focus of the World Benchmarking Alliance through this index that many of you know, the Access to Seed Index. And we have on the line Alice from Kigali, Rwanda. Thank you very much, Alice, for joining us and for telling us what are the latest activities you are conducting. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you so much, Hélène. So I'll tell you a little bit more also about access to seeds. What we do, Access to Seeds Index evaluates and compares seed companies on their effort on providing improved seeds. And so far we've had 2 indexes published. The first one was in 2000 and the second was in 2019. Currently, we're developing our 3rd edition of the index, which will be published also alongside the Food and Agriculture Benchmark during the UN Food System Summit in September. So what we have done so far is making sure that we are checking and trying to understand the contribution players in the seed industry. That includes globally active companies such as Bayer, and they've mentioned their experience with the index. We also have regional companies and we have local companies. And all these companies are mostly from our 3 regions where we focus, which is in South and Southeast Asia, Eastern and Southern Africa, as well as Western Central Africa. Together this year, we will assess 72 seed companies, and this edition is very special because we're going to include advanced seed producing cooperatives in West Africa. And this is just so because our index, we also want to show the contribution of different players in the seed industry, which goes all the way to the seed producing cooperatives, which are very representative of the region in West and Central Africa. So we are looking forward to giving a new updated index results in September, and this will be used as evidence for discussion on where and how the seed industry can continue to improve the access of quality seeds, especially of improved varieties to smallholder farmers in the developing economies.
Thank you very much, Alice, for this great work, and we wish you all the best. And actually, this is a good transition to our last speaker, who is Dr. Beatrice Elohor, member of the Technical Committee of NASTAG, the National Seed Trade Association of Ghana. And the particularity of this National Seed Association is that there is a cooperative inside called SeedPag, and you will tell us a bit more about the work you are doing as a cooperative, Beatrice. So what are the activities you are conducting in Ghana, and what is your experience as a production of quality seed as a cooperative? That's very interesting for us. And also, how do you see the role of your cooperative in the food transformation system that we are now discussing about? Thank you very much, Beatrice.
Thank you very much, Hélène. And I want to say thank you on behalf of NASTAG to the IFS for extending this invitation to us. NASTAG, which is the mother association, is a body of institutions, including research, advanced seed companies, and the Seed Producers Association, like you mentioned, SeedPag. We also have marketers and agro-input dealers as member of the association. So NASTAG ensures that there's a steady supply of seed to quality seed to farmers. In Ghana, the government initiated a program called the Planting for Foods and Job Initiative, which is in the 5th year of implementation. So what this program has done, amongst other objectives, is to ensure that farmers, particularly smallholder farmers, have access to good quality seed and agricultural inputs at highly subsidized rates. And these have actually resulted in an increment in yields on farmers' field, on smallholder farmers' field. And it's particularly important for food and nutrition security in Ghana and beyond. Recently, the Plant Variety Protection Bill was passed into law. This is really a move in the right direction for the seed industry in Ghana, because it's going to boost production of the seed industry and also contribute to food agricultural systems in Ghana, as we target also producing for the sub-region. Our seed producers, in particular, need a ready and reliable supply of early generation seed, which should be timely. And this includes the production of certified seed. They need to be provided these seeds on time so that they can produce the seeds that the farmers would need to increase their productivity. We know that there's climate change and there's irregularity with the rainfall patterns. This year we experienced delay in the rainfall, and there is a need to transcend from the rain-fed agriculture, which is practiced by smallholder farmers. There is a need to provide irrigation facilities for them to increase their productivity. Another challenge our farmers, our seed producers are facing is the fact that our production is still mainly manual with very little mechanization, I would say, and this is really not efficient to meet the needs, the growing need for quality seed. There's an increasing demand for high quality seed with this intervention of programs. Another program that is ongoing is the Ghana Inclusive Agricultural Transformation Program, which has provided funding for 2 consortia to produce early generation seed, as well as the certified seed for our seed growers to enhance production capacity in Ghana. I would want to conclude by saying that NASTAG as an association, even though it's a big umbrella of research institutions, marketers, seed producers, we ensure that we provide access to market for the seed producers. So after they produce their seed, we provide a link to markets for them. And we also help in advocacy to ensure that the concerns or issues of the seed producers are addressed by government or other relevant activities. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for this nice explanation, and we are very happy to see the voice of Africa more and more present at ISF, and I know you will be more engaged in ISF activities during this year and the coming years, and that's very great to work with you, and really that's great news what you said, that Ghana has now updated or at least got into the PVP laws. That's very good. So I really hope we can work more together now, and really happy to have you on board at ISF. So I would like to give the floor to conclude to Viktoria. So Viktoria, after hearing all our speakers from the private sector mainly, how do you see the role of the private sector in the coming months or years, at least during this year of the UNFSS, and maybe a bit longer? And how do you see in particular the future cooperation with the private seed sector? How do you see that we can work again together?
Yeah, thanks, Helen. And I think from the speakers today, but also from your whole virtual Congress first day, the magical word that trickled back always is this collaboration. I think that's one important aspect, collaboration. Then the second one is measuring the progress, because if we don't measure, it probably doesn't get done, or at least we don't know how much progress we are making. And to start with that last one, the measuring bit, as Tomas said, the World Benchmarking Alliance has tried to translate the expectations of the private sector. What is the societal expectations? Let's be honest, they're quite high. We are expecting a lot of them on many different aspects, on, as I said, nutrition, environment, social. So the bar is very high. But therefore, this collaboration is so important. And the examples of Dr. Beatrice, I think they're really poignant onto how we can really create impact on the ground. And I see this coming forward from the UN Food Systems Summit work as well, that every solution area that is being proposed and will be proposed during the pre-summit at the end of July in 3 weeks' time, they all need collaboration. So private sector has a huge role to play, but on their own they also can't make it. So we need governments, we need civil society, we need business platforms and federations like yourselves to really bring the organizations together and to share communal best practices and to share leading examples and to really work together. And that's what also we, just with data and by being this independent monitoring mechanism, trying to feed that discussion with data. That is what the role that we try to play, and just connecting the dots by bringing different parties together, because we all have a role to play, not only the private sector, but all of us.
Thank you so much, Viktoria, and thank you for joining us in the studio. Thank you to all our speakers who were remote. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Here we very much enjoyed the conversation. So this is the end of this session by the World Benchmarking Alliance. I hope this gave you some insight on the work which is ongoing during this important year of the UN Food Systems Summit. And as Viktoria said, we will continue to collaborate. And this is also the aim of these 3 days of Congress. This is now the end of the first day of the ISF Virtual Congress. But I hope to see you all again tomorrow for more panel discussion and more insightful discussion. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.